The
things
draft.
Draft would be nice. It all depends on Matt's schedule because I know
You might be writing just books upon books.
season ends. Then it's big wrap-up articles, right? And then it is suntan lotion in either palm, rubbing that on the head, and off to some island, hopefully, with a little umbrella drink in his hand and all that. Matthew Barrows joins us from The Athletic. Well, we are sad that this ends our season, Matt, but very proud of the team and their effort. Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. I'm ready for those umbrella drinks. And sadly, Jason probably is more accurate than you are predicting what my off season looks like. Going to be there's a lot of lost time during the playoffs that my sister keeps reminding me about, my writing partner. So, I'm going to have to hit that pretty hard in the months of February, March, April.
Maybe you can go escape to, I don't know, Philadelphia, back with your friends in Philly and hang out with them.
That's so funny. The name of the next novel is Escape from Philadelphia.
Now when but also, can we just say, I know didn't Hemingway used to go to all these exotic locations and finish his work? I know that there's a marble pillar signed by J.K. Rowling, I think in France, at some Four Seasons hotel when she finished her last Harry Potter book. There's nothing saying you can't combine vacation and writing, is there?
No, there's nothing that says that. I'm more of a, torture yourself type writer. Put yourself just like in the smallest, darkest space with no distractions and just find that very highest level of concentration and try to get into the zone. And getting into the zone is difficult. But once you're in the zone, you want to take advantage of that zone time and you don't want to fall out of the zone. So I feel like the south of France or some exotic place would have too many distractions for me.
Well, the distractions might have been there on the weekend, but you probably could have started on that book after the opening kickoff. Oof. Man, did that it was one play, but it felt like, that's kind of captured the way the whole day went. Like there was really no chance for the Niners on Saturday.
Yeah, you couldn't have asked for a worse beginning for them, and not just the score, but that crowd was just waiting for something fantastic to happen. And it happened right off the bat. And it's a sharp contrast between that Eagles crowd that I was describing a week ago at this time, which seemed sort of nervous and waiting for something bad to happen. The Seahawks crowd was just really jubilant. That's how I would describe it. And the worse it got for the 49ers, the louder that crowd got. They were having a blast in that game. And, they think that this is a Super Bowl year. And sort of ironically for the 49ers, that would happen on their home field with the Seahawks guys in the 49ers locker room, if that were to be the case. So either way, you've got the Rams or the Seahawks in your home locker room. That's got to be. Is that irony? I still don't know what the definition of irony is, but I think that's close to it.
Ironies, that's when you have a wrinkled shirt and you need to get the irony. Right. Secondly, can we move the Super Bowl? Is it too late?
Stanford this year.
Stanford Stadium did it a few years ago. By a few, I mean 40. First off, that wasn't their only loss over the weekend. I know we got a ton of stuff to go over with the game. But finding out when a lot of people woke up this morning, Robert Saleh is off to Tennessee. We've been down this road before, and on one hand, hey, DeMeco Ryans. On the other hand, Steve Wilkes and whatever in between. What do you see? You think the Niners have a pretty decent contingency plan for this? Did they expect this?
They absolutely expected this. The only question was whether it was this year or next year, and the abundance of openings made it this year. And, they brought in Gus Bradley last year too. And he didn't have a specific role. He wasn't working with a specific group. His title was assistant head coach. And he was there as a sounding board, and he was there to sort of run their Saturday night meeting. which is sort of their kind of feel good meeting, get a theme going for the next day's game. And so he was exposed to the team in that way. And I saw him after games going up to one defensive player or another. So he's familiarized himself with everybody in that locker room. And, the bigger point is that he is Robert Sala's mentor. They first met in Seattle, and then when Gus Bradley was in Jacksonville, he hired Sala to be his linebackers coach there. So there's a relationship there, and more to the point, there's a sameness of scheme. So it would be another idea where the defensive coordinator comes in and runs the same scheme that the 49ers have been running, which they got in trouble with Steve Wilkes a few years ago because that wasn't his scheme. They got in trouble with Nick Sorensen because he was familiar with the scheme, but he'd never been a defensive coordinator before. Gus Bradley kind of covers both issues for them. So I would imagine that he's the guy. I mean, they have to have a search per the Rooney Rule, and there's some other names that are kind of interesting out there. Jim Schwartz runs the same style of defense, or at least the same style of defensive line. And as we know, Kyle Shanahan has been an admirer for a long time. So Schwartz is in the running for that Cleveland job. If he doesn't get it, does he stay as the defensive coordinator? If he doesn't, maybe he's a guy that they look at too. Raheem Morris would be somebody with a long background with Kyle Shanahan as well. So there are options out there, and I think it'll be a true search. And I think that their fallback position is always we've got Gus Bradley, and our guys know him, our guys like him, our guys are familiar with his style of defense, and that might be the easy answer.
Real quick follow-up, and I could totally sound like an idiot here, but that's nothing new. Do the Niners get a compensatory pick for Robert Saleh, to your knowledge?
They do not.
Okay.
He would have needed to be there 2 years to get that compensatory pick.
Gotcha.
So they lose Robert Saleh and they don't get that third round pick, which they would love at this stage when they're still trying to get younger and a little bit more inexpensive. There are a couple of minority candidates interviewing for GM jobs. Josh Williams, Tariq Ahmad. I don't know where things are with that, but that would trigger the third round pick as well. Both of those guys are fantastic guys. I personally would hate to lose Tariq Ahmad because he sits down with me after the draft every year and we kind of go pick by pick about over what the guy's background is and why he was appealing to the 49ers. So I would have to find my replacement, Tariq Ahmad, if that were to happen.
Matt Barrows joining us, of course, brought to you by Stockton Honda. Matt, we talked about Saleh. Is he the only coach we're assuming the Niners are losing, or is there's some others potentially there?
I mean, this is sort of the question, is that Saleh is obviously a defensive coordinator, so if you're the Titans, you don't worry about that side of the ball. But if you're the Titans, you've got Cam Ward, a good young quarterback, and you're very concerned about who the offensive coordinator is going to be. And I don't know if we know the answer to that yet. Obviously, Saleh told them a list of names. I always thought that a really smart move for Saleh would be to take Clay Kubiak, the offensive coordinator of the 49ers. And I say offensive coordinators, and for those listening, I'm doing air quotes because it doesn't really call the plays. That's Kyle Shanahan's job. And then that would mean that, you've got the Shanahan system, just like, it would be very similar to what the Seattle Seahawks did over the last 2 years. Hire a defensive-minded coach and then hire a Kubiak to run the offense. And that seems like a pretty tried and true formula. So I asked Kyle Shanahan that at the end of his press conference in Seattle. I said, would you allow Clay Kubiak to make a lateral move if it's to a place where he's calling the plays? And Shanahan couldn't have been more blunt. He said no. He called some plays here. We need an offensive coordinator here. Why would I let him go for the same job elsewhere? So it seemed like he was kind of ready for that question, or at least had contemplated that scenario, and it's kind of laying down the gauntlet there. So he that remains to be seen. I don't know if there's any negotiation that would happen, et cetera, et cetera. But he seemed to lay down a hard line. Another guy is, gosh, I can't remember his first name. Fleury, the tight ends coach for the 49ers, who does a lot of the play calling. And he's sort of an up and comer. And that would be a real promotion from tight ends coach to offensive coordinator if Saleh were to take him with him to Tennessee, and that would be a good move, I think, because this guy has been working under Shanahan for a long time. He's really well versed in the run game, which is what Mike McDaniel, that's another guy who could possibly be a Saleh offensive coordinator, has done. But that would be a good, inspired choice, and I think that would upset Kyle Shanahan as well. But he couldn't do anything about keeping him here.
Matt Barrows joining us. He writes for The Athletic. He is brought to you by Stockton Honda. As we wrap up the season, of course, and I'm sure you're going to have a lot of in-depth stuff on this over the next days and weeks. Tough decisions in the offseason. The 49ers aren't young. They just got beat by a much younger team. They're obviously going to have to make some decisions this summer that, are going to be sad for some fans, I'm sure, and certainly sad for those players. What do you see as their priorities this summer? Is there anybody in particular you think may be going bye-bye?
Well, they have a lot of free agents, so a lot of guys are going bye-bye. I mean, I can't see Yetur Gross-Matos, who they didn't get much out of despite a very big contract, coming back. Jauan Jennings is the one you can't really tell at this point, because at the end of the summer, they weren't able to come to any sort of contract extension, and it seemed like they were essentially saying goodbye to him in the off season. The Brandon Ayuk situation, however, has created some extra money, and then on top of that, it was clear that they just don't have another reliable guy at that position. So if they were to lose Jauan Jennings, they would have to bring in a Jauan Jennings type of veteran, sort of a reliable multi-year guy that you know what you're getting out of him. So I just wonder whether his value to the 49ers is higher than other teams. I wonder if he does make it to the market, and he seems ready to do that, that he finds that, maybe the 49ers are the best place for me. So I think that scenario is still on the table, in which case I feel like they would then need to draft a wide receiver, either in the first or the second round. And then you have this group of Jennings, Pearsall, whoever the rookie is, and then Jordan Watkins and Jacob Cowing and Demarcus Robinson kind of filling it out after that. As far as other guys that they would like to retain, Kalia Davis, I thought was interesting this year. He started all 19 games, which is a rarity for the 49ers. And he's really was only in technically it was his fourth year, but he was injured his first two seasons, came into the NFL with an ACL. So the idea is that he's really a younger player than his veteran status indicates. He's still ascending. And I think that he kind of fits that let's get younger defensive line mentality that they have, and the fact that he made it through all 19 games. I mean, you want to hold on to those guys like grim death if you're the San Francisco 49ers. So he would make sense to re-sign as well.
Matt, ironically, in a season that had so many injuries, the guy that was kind of injured going into the year was Christian McCaffrey. Then he has just a major amount of work that the Niners counted on him for. How much help do they need to get for him back there to maybe alleviate some of the touches, but also still get the best that they can out of McCaffrey? What kind of priority will be more depth in the backfield be?
I mean, I don't. They always seem to use a middle round pick on a running back, and then proceed to never use that player at all in the
Yeah.
season. So I don't think it is a priority.
Wow.
I mean they've shown that it's not a priority. They've shown that if Christian McCaffrey is healthy, we're going to use him all but 8 plays in a game. They've done that for 4 straight seasons now. That's their philosophy. They don't, they stick with a hot hand at running back, and no one had a hotter hand than Christian McCaffrey last year. So, the thing to look at is sort of his history in the league in terms of touches and use. And it's usually followed by a season in which he is injured quite a bit. So I don't know if the 49ers are playing that game, whether they're anticipating something like that. My guess is that they aren't. They'll take the season as it comes. But if he's healthy to begin week 1 next year, I think it's still going to be 45 snaps for Christian McCaffrey in that game. They do like Jordan James, the guy who ended up serving as the backup after it became a blowout in Seattle. Isaac Orendo is still signed. I think that they will probably use a draft pick or an undrafted draft pick or undrafted rookie next year at the position. But I think that their intention is full go with Christian McCaffrey, and we're not changing anything.
It brings up an interesting point in my head, Matt, because when I've been saying all year, as a lot of 49er fans have, look, you don't want moral victories, blah, 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 but just the house money they've been on, the amount of injuries they've dealt with, the job that Kyle Shanahan's done, all the points we've gone over time and time again. And I don't disagree with a single word you said, by the way. I think maybe the thing that sticks in my craw is, kind of like Jason said, the one guy coming into the season, I'm old enough to remember at the beginning of the season, we were like, oh, God, these little leg issues are precursors to Achilles. Is he even going to be ready? If he's ready, how much are they going to play him? Oh, and then they ran him 10,000 times this year and broke all kinds of records. So my thing is this. If they go into next year rolling the dice again, man, well, we're just going to throw McCaffrey and his strings for Achilles is out there and see what happens. And then, he goes, God forbid he doesn't, but he goes down in the second week. And then I think at some point we can't be like, oh, man, the luck the Niners have is just terrible. Can you believe McCaffrey? What are they going to – at some point there's got to be a cross between bad luck, Matt, and also, making sure you're in a position to have good luck as well.
I couldn't agree with you more. You may have run across this thread about the electrical substation that's next to
I almost didn't ask you.
Which is the catch-all reason for every
Right.
injury that's ever happened to this team. It's interesting, but a greater kind of connection in terms of the 49ers and the injury issues was the hiring of Kyle Shanahan in 2017. Kyle Shanahan has a philosophy where he goes hard in practices, and obviously he doesn't do the tailback rotation thing like we see in Atlanta, for example. Atlanta uses, you got Bijan Robinson, and Bijan Robinson has a great series, and then he's gone the next series.
Yeah.
And Tyler Algier is in.
Yeah.
So they do they are determined to limit his exposure and his snaps and his hits and his touches, et cetera, et cetera. The 49ers have the opposite one. And so that's the choice that a Kyle Shanahan team has made. So you live and die with that. I mean, by the way, the fact that the 49ers practice really hard during the week, this is on their Thursday practice, has been noted by a number of players, but they're not noting it as a negative. They see it as a positive. They love that. And they feel like on game days, a lot of the times they are better conditioned, better in better position to win a tough game than the opponents. So I think that there's a connection. Ironically, I think this is real irony, guys. There's a connection between all the injuries the 49ers get and all the victories the 49ers get.
Yeah.
At least I think that's what the 49ers might conclude if you gave them a truth serum and you talked about that.
Matt, is you already addressed, there's a lot of ways this team is going to, or a lot of things they'll address to try to get better. Is a lot of their offseason thinking too, like Seattle is the team. That's our benchmark. That's because I was talking to Dave earlier, and you play who's in front of you. That's who they drew in this matchup, and I think it was the worst possible matchup they could have. Maybe it would have been different if they played the Rams. Maybe it would have been different if they played the Bears, but they didn't. And Seattle's in their division. They look so good, and that looks like a team that they're far apart from. Is everything that they're going to try to do in the offseason kind of, I don't know, with a hint or tailored around the Seahawks?
That was brought up a number of times to the players after the Seahawks game, the 41-6 game. And the notion that the Seahawks are the clear, front runners in the division, and the 49ers have to figure out a way to beat the Seahawks. That was just dismissed by the players. And maybe it's the difference between talking to players and talking to the coaches and the GM, which we'll do on Wednesday. But they didn't seem to think that there was a big gap or that they needed to do much. It was this wasn't our night explanation. And Trent Williams pointed out that in week 1, the 49ers were largely healthy, and they went to Seattle and they beat the Seahawks. My thought is that the Seahawks in week 1 were not nearly the Seahawks in week 18. By the end of the season, the Seahawks were humming, and they were confident in certainly what they did on defense and this, that, and the other. So if you ask me, I would say, yeah, they need to do something. They need to be able to find the edge in their running game, which they really weren't able to do all season, and certainly had trouble against a Seahawks defense that was fast and well versed against this particular offense. And then they couldn't hold the edge on defense. And that has everything to do with their injuries at defensive end. But I do think that this is a team that builds its defense from the defensive line out. And when the defensive line falls apart like it did in 2025, it just exposes all those other positions that you don't really put a huge priority on. So either you need to start doing that, put a bigger priority on safety, et cetera, or you just need to continue to rebuild that defensive line, which is what I think the 49ers will end up doing, but also what makes this defensive coordinator hire interesting. Who do they hire? What's the philosophy like? Et cetera, et cetera. I mean, in the past, the 49ers have wanted, Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch have made that decision. They want a coordinator who will kind of buy into their philosophy of defensive line comes first, linebacker second, secondary third. So I imagine that stays the same.
And with that, we close the book on the 2025 season with our friend Matt Barrows. Matt, first off, thank you for everything this season. Thanks for all the wonderful coverage and all the visits and all the high points and even the low points. Thank you for all of that. Have a wonderful summer. Good luck on your writing. Remember, Muddy the Water, available at Amazon.com and other fine establishments. Read it now. Order it online and get it for a gift. We appreciate you, and I hope to see that beautiful dome of yours peeling and sunburnt come August or September.
No, I'm going SPF 100 when I get to Sri Lanka this spring. But guys, thanks for having me on. I always enjoy this. I look forward to it. Doesn't feel like work to me because you guys have such a good sense of humor. I enjoy it every year. And let's do it again in 26.
Awesome.
Let's do it.
Hopefully our agents can get together, work out a deal again, hammer that thing out, and we'll be back for, I think, year 23,
Wow.
24, whatever it is. We're all very old. Matt, we appreciate you. Have a wonderful summer, my friend.
You too. Thank
All right,
you.
Take care. That is the great Matthew Barrows. Again, Muddy the Water.